And here's the last one on here. And this, this may be controversial, but it's the Fullers, Robert, Ron, and Buddy. Now, Buddy Fuller was a pioneer of wrestling down south. He was one of the early guys who kind of pioneered professional wrestling in its modern day form. And during the TV era. So when TV hit, Buddy Fuller, and I talked to him, and he used to be a booker, and he's drawn some tremendous houses before pay-per-view, before WWE, before all those guys. He had a little territory in Alabama, and he worked this angle with a guy named Mario Galento. You can look him up. He was a gypsy, and a real gypsy. So they went to a stadium in Mobile. It was called Ladd Stadium, I think. So I don't know how I'm remembered this stuff. It was Ladd Stadium. They drew something like 35,000 people. Can you imagine drawing 35,000 people in the 60s? And they all sat outside because they had a card. And that was the first big house I ever heard of that early on. And they did it strictly off TV, and they did it strictly off the belief that Buddy Fuller and Mario Galento, or Mario Galento, however you said his name, they truly hated each other. One time they did an angle where they both ended up in the same bar together. They got in a fight, and one hit the other one with the bottle as a shoot over the head, and he's bleeding, and the other one was bleeding too, and they called the cops out. That made all the news for the next week. So that was a weekend, so it hit the Sunday papers. Then it hit all the papers and the radios and the TVs, and these guys are going to settle it Saturday night at Ladd Stadium. And that's how they did it. And never let anybody in on it. They never let the cops in on it. Never let anybody know that this was just a way to promote that big card. And they did a deal where they called hardways. You know what a hardway is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hardway, and this comes from the carnival. The hardways is like you could... This was never done on me because I'm too big of a wussy. But you could take a knuckle and you would tap the guy right there. And I tried it, but I couldn't do it. Not only was I a wussy, I was inept. I was inept at what I was doing. But this is where I learned about, it was called the blading. They would take, and they got the blading, they got the idea from blading, from boxing. You know, when a guy swells up, well, they get rid of that, they cut it, and lets all the pressure out of that blood out of that eye, or wherever he's swollen. But they said, well, if it works for that, he can work to get the color too, call the color. So you do that, and then you seal it shut. Then you put something that holds it together.
Vaseline or something, probably.
Something like that. But it's a sticky, and all you got to do is tap it. You don't even got to have to be even close to it. Just tap it, and if somebody's watching that, what are they going to say? Damn, I didn't see nothing else. He hit him and he started bleeding. So that's what they did in that match. And it went like 15 or 20 minutes, this match. And they were both like just drenched in blood. So I'm going to say one thing. For the people who went to that Ladd Stadium, they're all dead now. But they went to that Ladd Stadium show with Buddy Fuller and Mario Galento. The advertising wasn't wrong, because in that ring, they performed like they hated each other. Blood all over the place, pulled them apart, took them one out on a gurney or did something. But so, and when they left that stadium that night, that thought in their heads is, damn, these some bitches meant it. So, and that's how you kept fans. You don't hear about that anymore. But, and this was before cable, this was before internet, it was before pay-per-view. It was a one-off. That if you only had that TV there, of course, they put it on the other TVs around. Mobile's close to Pensacola. They put it on Pensacola TV, Mobile TV, Montgomery TV, some of the big TVs in Lower Alabama, and they drew that big house. So Buddy Fuller, he's got to be added in there to very good for the amount of money he drew. And his sons, they were taught the wrestling business by Buddy. And we had one on here. We had Ron on here. Mm-hmm. We haven't had Robert, but both of them are very, very good. Not necessarily in the ring so much as understanding what wrestling is and how it can be booked and handled. And I'll say one thing for Ron Fuller. I don't think he spent a lot of time thinking about it. You know, the old saying, I've said it 5 times during the show, the temperature in the room. I mean, Ron could walk into a room and tell you what we needed to do. Just quick. And he had such a way, he said, well, I'll tell you, boys, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go out there and blah, blah, blah. And Dutch, you get that son of a bitch down and you beat the hell out of me. And Buddy was the same way. Buddy could give you a finish where you weren't winning. He said, now, Dutch, I want you to take, and he's the one who gave me the name Dutch Mantell, by the way. Mm-hmm. So, and he told me, he said, Dutch, you get that son of a bitch down and you beat his ass up and boom, boom, boom. And by listening to him, I got excited about it. And by the time and then all of a sudden he hooks a small package on you. 1, 2, 3, he bails out and you get up madder than hell. What do you think, boy? Hell, I was so excited. I couldn't wait to get out there to get beat. But he had that enthusiasm that kind of, made you want to go out there and do a great job. And he was a good guy, and I really liked him a lot. Robert Fuller's the same way.